Howdy folks, this is Shane. Welcome to the In the Blues Tone podcast. It's the 11th of July 2017. Lots of great gear news coming up on this particular podcast, and also some other stuff which I want to talk about some changes to the channel and things that I'm going to be doing. Also, someone new is going to be on the channel as well, so definitely check that out. If you're wondering if you can download the podcast just audio only, you absolutely can. You can go to iTunes and type in the Blues Tone Podcast, or go to inthebluespodcast.com. Nice and simple. Fender have just re-released an amplifier that I'd never thought I'd see again. And maybe I was just being ignorant or whatever, but basically they've re-released the Supersonic Range. And you might be thinking, hang on a second, the Supersonic Range is still out there. Actually, they're not. They discontinued the 60 and the 100, and they've just come back. The funniest thing is, they changed designs on the second series of those amps. So the first generation Supersonic 60 and the second generation Supersonic 60 were quite different. The EQ stack was different, and visually they also look different to each other. The funny part about this reissue amplifier is they essentially released it looking like the first series of the amps with the kind of weird logo, and then they also added that new EQ stack. They actually sound great. I had a chance to play a Supersonic 60 and it was awesome. I'm still not a huge fan of those vintage 30 speakers, but pull that out, put another one in, and it's great. I get asked all the time, why did I sell that amp? It was heavy. At that time, I think it was the amp that did my back, so I thought, you know what, it was time to downsize. It's a killer amp for a number of reasons. The clean channel is great on the Bassman setting. I find the Vibrolux setting on there a little bit lackluster, but only on that particular amplifier. The drive channel is where that amp is absolutely at. You can get a great sound out of it, no problems at all. It takes pedals well, it's super loud. Like I said, the vintage 30s aren't for everybody. Some folks love them and some people don't. If it was me doing it again, I'd put a Texas heat in there and I'd be absolutely done. Fender have also gone ahead and released the Supersonic 100 head again. I love that amp. That was something that I wanted to try. The twin version of the Supersonic weighs a ton, so the head is where it's at. If you're thinking about getting a 100 watt amp, buy a head and get a box that's nice and light, and you're done. The great thing about the Supersonic 100 head is it's self-biasing. You can put in your tubes and it will do its thing and make sure that it's set correctly. It also has an option where you can run your amp cooler, medium, or hotter, depending on what type of sound you like, and also how long you want the valves to last. So if you're running it on cool, you'll get more life out of the tubes. If you're running it on hot, you'll get less life, but the amp might sound a bit more edgy. So that's a really cool function. Fender haven't gone ahead and released the actual 100 watt version of the amp. They've just done the head. So if I was to get one, I'd probably lean towards the 100. The 60 is awesome if you're buying a combo, but in terms of the head, it's a great sounding head too, but it doesn't have reverb. One of the advantages of the 100 watt over the 60, aside from just that little bit more clean headroom, is the fact it has a built-in reverb tank. Awesome stuff. Fender still have the 212 Supersonic cabs as well, but be warned, they might look awesome, but they weigh a ton. They're also loaded with vintage 30s. So speakers aside, that box is still pretty heavy. If it was me buying one of these things, I'd get one of the heads and get a custom cab and put in the speakers that you like best. You get a much better sound that way as well. Better's subjective. If you already have one of those cabinets and love it, then that's totally cool. Everyone has a different ear for tone and all that kind of stuff, and nobody's right. But for me, I would probably go ahead, put a Texas heat in if I was doing a 212 box, and I would also put a Swamp Thing in there. I think those two speakers side by side would be absolutely awesome. They're eminent speakers as well. It kind of makes me wonder why Fender don't branch out and try some different speakers in their amps as opposed to just the same old speakers. I know a few of their amps have different Celestions in them, but not many. Another amp that Fender have just gone ahead and released is the GB Twin. You might be thinking, what the hell's GB? The George Benson Twin. So it has the same look as the Hot Rod Deluxe that they had out a while back, except this particular amp is 85 watts. The preamp tubes are 112 AY7, so you're getting a little bit more clean headroom there just by having that in that preamp section. 3 12AX7s and 2 12AT7s as well. And the power tubes are 4 6L6s. So rest assured, this thing would be pretty loud at 85 watts, there's no doubt about it. And it has that smoky grey vinyl covering, which actually looks pretty cool. I think that sort of visual kind of suits Fender amps for whatever reason. It's just that little bit different, and I'd love to see or hear one of these in person. I think that would look pretty cool. If you're watching on YouTube, please let me know your thoughts on the Supersonic amps and your opinions on them reissuing a relatively new amp. I'm actually in favor of that, as opposed to just continually re-releasing the same old thing every other year. Good stuff.